Joining me today to start the show off is a special guest, a man that has a 15-2 record with 10 KOs. He's ranked number 9 by the IBF and WBO, number 10 by the WBA. He's a welterweight. He goes by the nickname La Bestia, and that's Nicklaus Flaz. Nicklaus, appreciate you taking time to come on today, man. Oh, I'm quick. There we go. What's going on, man? How you doing today?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm great, man. Well, first things first, we got to get into your most recent fight. We're 12 days removed now from your most recent fight against Alan Sanchez, which you had a fourth round KO in. Now that you've had time to reflect on the fight, kind of break it down, what's your thoughts on your performance?
Actually, I saw that he couldn't withstand my power, so I just kept walking him down and getting to the body so I can throw him down, throw his leg down, and that's how I got the victory.
When you look back at it, would you say that was a perfect performance for yourself? Do you feel like there's stuff you still could improve on, or how would you overall grade your performance on that night?
I will rank it like a 8.5. I could have done a lot better. I got hit like with three shots that like got too careless with.
Okay, yeah. And I know a huge thing about you too is that you did have a fight, a main event scheduled for April. Obviously, there was a little bit of an injury issue with that one that ended up postponing it to May then when you fought. Can you take us to that? Do you feel like you're 100% now recovered from whatever the injury was?
Yeah, I'm 100% recovered. You could see I'm a last fight. Nothing
Yeah,
bothered me at all.
absolutely, man. Well, I do want to get into your story though, Nicholas, because when we look at your career and your story, when I was researching you, you have quite the story to get to the point that you're at today. And so I want people to get to know you better before we discuss your future plans and stuff like that. So the very first question I have to ask you then is going all the way back. Was boxing what you always loved? Was that the sport that you really always wanted to pursue, or when did that come to fruition for yourself?
Actually, no, before I didn't like boxing, I didn't watch boxing, I didn't know a lot about boxing.
Mm-hmm.
And once I got into it, I fell in love with it. I started researching, I started watching fights, started learning.
You ended up coming out to the United States for a little bit. Can you take us to that? What all happened there, and what was that experience like?
Actually, yeah, my mother sent me to the United States to live with my father because I was in bad habits. I was doing drugs, stealing in the streets, and she called me and she sent me over there so I can straighten myself. I live in Red, Pennsylvania for like 5, 6 months. Then I moved to New York, the Bronx in New York.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like it right there, so I said I gotta fix myself so I can go back to Puerto Rico, and that's what I did. I started fixing myself, started behaving. I came back. I started getting bullied with one of my friends from the neighborhood. He was a boxer. I told one of my friends, "I'm gonna go to the gym to beat him up." And I
Okay.
never got the chance to spar with him or anything until later on.
Could you ever imagine that you'd reach the level that you've now reached today?
Nah, I didn't. I honestly didn't. I went to boxing, and I like the adrenaline. I like getting punched. I like punching back. I was an all-out brawler in the beginning of my career. I
Mm-hmm.
never thought I would gain so much ability, so much technique, not getting hit and hit back. So being
At
a long
what
journey, and I enjoy it.
at what point in your life would you say it started to click for yourself, and you started to realize, you know what, I could actually take this to the professional ranks. I could actually become a person that's a contender, a potential world champion in the future. When did that click for you?
In the fourth year, because when I started boxing, I was weighing 230 pounds. Once I lost with that weight and kept winning fights here in Puerto Rico, won the nationals,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna go pro and start knocking people out.
Okay. Well, I also do want to go back real quickly to that portion of the time when you came to America, because obviously, like you said, you're 11 years old. You get sent to another country to go live in for a little bit. That had to be a little bit difficult for yourself, but obviously, it's helped you grow into the person you are today. So when you revisit that, how big was that for you to be able to take that break and kind of come back to America for a little bit? And what was that time of life like in terms of benefiting you as a person moving forward?
Actually, it wasn't 11 years old. I was 15 years old when I went to the United States.
Okay.
But it actually fit me because it was a different environment from what I'm used to. At first, I kind of liked, but I got sick of it. I miss my island, I miss my people.
Sure.
So I have said if I want to go back, I gotta do better. If not, my mom won't send me over there.
You come to America, and obviously English was not your native language, so you were able to adapt over time. How did you become such a fluent English speaker then?
When I used to live in Puerto Rico before, I learned English by watching cartoons in English. Then
Okay.
when I went to the States, I actually just got fluent with it.
And so you go out to Puerto Rico back again, and at that point in time, I believe you're about 15, 16 years old, and you're 5'9", you weigh 232 pounds. You end up obviously slimming down quite a bit by that point. In 18 months, I've read that you end up cutting down 100 pounds. Walk through that transition then. What led to that body transformation over that time span?
I got into boxing. I fell in love with the sport. And I just kept working on my weight little by little, going down. Started fighting 200, and they kept fighting down to divisions.
Earlier in your career, you were fighting a little bit over about 150-ish pounds, 155 you fought some fights at. You end up settling down at welterweight. Why do you feel like that's the division that you want to settle in at?
Actually, at first, I wanted to settle in 154, but
Okay.
after my first loss, I switched trainers, and he told me, "You're gonna fight at 147 if you want to train with me." I was
Okay.
like, "Damn, okay, let's do it." And we were staying at 147 ever since.
Now, do you feel like this is the weight class that you're going to stick at going forward? Do you feel like 147 welterweight is the division that you can make your mark at?
Yeah, I believe it is.
All right. Well, let's get into some of this other professional career aspects for yourself because you have had 2 losses in your career. And the biggest thing for me that I always like to say is if you learn from those losses aren't that big of a deal. I know some people put a lot more
Yeah.
pressure on the loss than others, but for yourself, you've obviously learned. You've had those 2 losses early in your career. You haven't lost now in a few years now. Walk us through those 2 losses and how much they improved you as a fighter and as a person.
Actually, my first loss, actually gassed out. I got tired. I only wanted to get the knockout. And
Hmm.
after that loss, I told myself, not every fight is gonna get knocked out. You're gonna learn defense, learn how to cut the ring, learn more, get better.
Right.
And that's when I met my new trainer, David Oyola. I'm training with him right now. That
Hmm.
was back in 2018,
Okay.
and ever since I stayed with him. Then in 2020, I went to make camp in Florida. I was in training with him, and I got a fight. But since the COVID was I could come back to Puerto Rico and then back to the States. So I stayed over there.
Hmm.
I got the fight. I got too reckless and got knocked out.
Right. As you've progressed now, you haven't lost in 4 years now, little 5 years now almost at this point in time. Do you feel like those losses have now made you a better fighter? And how big is it also at the same time for a boxer to be able to learn from their losses? Because you're gonna have setbacks at times, but how big is it to be able to learn from those losses that you don't make those same mistakes later on?
Well, a loss can make you or destroy you. If you learn from it, you're gonna keep improving. If you don't learn from it, you're gonna keep losing and going backwards.
Right. Over the past few years, and actually, I'll even say this: when we go to the second loss you had in 2020, could you have imagined that you would be in the position you're at today? Like, was this something that you expected that, okay, I'm going to learn from this, I'm going to get better, I'm going to reach the points I'm at today? Or would you have been shocked if I would have told you after that loss that you'd be a guy that's top 10 ranked in 3 different boards?
I was actually shocked because after that loss, kept calling me to be the B side, I guess, undefeated fighters and shit. But I believed in myself, and here we are. Thank God.
Absolutely, man. Now let's look over the past couple of years because you had a couple of signature wins. One of the big ones I'd say that I really started paying attention to, really liked your fighting style, was against Jahai Tucker, who now has obviously moved to 160, and obviously he's now a great prospect as well. Do you feel like that was a big moment for you to when you were able to go up against another top ranked prospect and be able to put on the performance you did that night? Do you feel like that was almost a turning point of your career?
Yeah, I believe it was because Tucker was a big name at the moment. He still is because he keeps winning.
Right.
And to be the underdog and come out with the victory against a top prospect from top rank, it really put me in the map.
And then we process all the way up to this point in time. As I said, you fight Alan Sanchez. You're a guy that's now a co-main event, a main event type of caliber guy, a guy that's ranked in the top 10. And I have to ask you then, when you look at yourself going forward now, and you look at the next 12 to 18 months for yourself, where do you see yourself? What do you see yourself in how many fights you're going to fight? What could you accomplish? Like, where do you see yourself being now a year and a half from this point in time?
I see myself being a world champion, fighting for a world title.
That's obviously a huge statement to make then. So I have to ask you then, what gives you that confidence? Why do you feel so confident in yourself moving forward?
Because I got a great team behind me. My trainer, my promoter, Samson, they all backing me up. And because this is not a one man job, this is a team job, a team job.
I have heard some rumors. It came out just about yesterday that Rohan Polanco, he's going to expect to return July 26th. And I heard that there's two names involved. You're one of those names. Also another name, Blair Cobbs. Have you heard about that? Is that true? Could we possibly be seeing you fight on July 26th against Rohan Polanco?
Now on July 26th,
Okay.
because they only said my name, but we never got an offer. And my promoter was already working for me, and he got other plans.
Okay. So you won't probably be on that card then, but could we possibly see you fight Polanco later on?
Yeah, probably later on. Yeah.
If you were to look at everybody at welterweight, the division's popping right now. There's a lot of big time fighters right now in the weight class. Is there somebody that you see that you want to fight? Out of everybody available right now, is there one guy that you're on that you'd like to fight?
I don't know. Anyone ranked above me, that's who I want.
All right. When you look at some of those other guys right now, I just want to pick your brain on boxing overall. We know the Pac-Man Barrios fight's going to just got announced. What's your thoughts overall on that fight?
I mean, Pac-Man, he's coming back after, I think, 2 year layoff.
Mm-hmm.
His age will play a lot in it too. He didn't look good on his exhibition. It's not the same Pacquiao we saw, like, let's say, 5, 6 years ago.
Right.
So,
Do you believe that that's a good fight that got made? Like, do you feel like that's a legitimate fight between Barrios and Pac-Man, or just overall the fact that we have a guy that's 46 years old fighting? Do you feel like that's a little bit odd when you talk about obviously him just being thrown into the rankings and now getting a world championship shot right away?
yeah, I think it's a little bit odd. I don't think that fight should have been made. They
Right.
should leave the. They put him in the rankings without even fighting again. He just popped right in.
Mm-hmm. 100% agree, man. Well, you being 29 years old, obviously you still have a lot left in the tank, but when you talk about, you could possibly have another big fight here soon. When could we possibly see you back in the ring? Is there a certain time period that you want to return to the ring?
Yeah, I probably want to be back like late July, early August,
Okay.
and hopefully my promoter makes that happen.
You talked about obviously going for the world championship. That's what your goal is. And there's a lot of different routes you could go down because you're obviously ranked in the IBF, WBO, WBA. Is there a certain one that you're trying to shoot for, whether that be the IBF, WBO, WBA, that you're trying to work your way up that ranking group?
For me personally, I want to go for the WBO.
Okay. And I also want to ask you, I was actually going to ask you this in the beginning, but you have the nickname La Bestia. Can you take us through that? I know that's the beast in English for those that don't know, but can you take us through the meaning behind that? How that nickname come to be?
Actually, I adopted that name from the amateurs because people keep calling me, "Oh, that kid's a beast, that kid's a beast." Actually, I
Mhm.
adopted it, but recently I changed it to Nico,
Okay.
my real nickname. People call me Nico in real life, so I just put Nico on it. Like the bestia, that's the old me, the one that got knocked out. Now it's Nico fighting.
All right. So what led to that transformation? Why did you decide that, it's time to make the transition from the Beast or La Bestia to Nico?
Nico is smarter and has a higher IQ than La Bestia. La Bestia was just a brawler.
All right. I love that, man. Well, I got one final question for you. It's the question I like to wrap up every single interview with, and that's talking about your legacy. At one point in time, obviously, you're going to move on from boxing, you're going to step away from the sport. When that day does come, what is it that you want to be remembered for what you've accomplished both inside and outside of the ring?
Well, inside the ring, I want to be remembered like by an excited fighter that always give a great show to the fans and a great champion.
I love that, man. Well, Nico, I appreciate you taking time to come on in, man. I cannot wait to see what God's got in store for you.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. You're always welcome on, man. God bless.
God bless. Take care.
You too, man.